And back to one of our top stories this hour with a conflict in Syria showing no sign of letting up. I'm now joined by Sibel Edmonds, a former FBI translator and founder of the National Security Whistleblowers Coalition, to talk about just where the country may be headed. Thanks very much for joining us. So there's been a lot of disagreement over the accuracy of the statements and the figures coming out of Syria now. So the Arab League observers are finally in the country. Do you think we'll see some clarity about the situation finally come to light?
Well, I believe that's unlikely, because if you really look at the situation and the so-called Arab League, you just see the comical aspect of this, because I mean, look at the member countries. You're looking at Bahrain, and on daily basis we have news from Bahrain and their human rights abuses and their own dictatorship. You have Saudi Arabia, and also you're having a team of countries, nations that are on the payroll of the United States, and of course they are going to produce whatever they are told to produce.
So who do you think? Who do you think would be a good independent third party to oversee this all and make observations?
Well, in the past, I would have said just by having the journalist media, real media out there, we would get some more accurate feedback and information from the ground. But right now, I mean, what we see here about these atrocities and 5,000 deaths here and the so-called massacres, none of these numbers are confirmed. They are actually given, and if you look at the media, they are actually telling you that they're getting their information from the rebel army. They are not getting it from inside the country. But of course, when you look at the mainstream media, at least here in the United States, and the so-called larger quasi-alternatives, they are just repeating those numbers. Now, for our news websites, we have been getting information from Syria, and these are not necessarily the supporters of Assad. These are the people who are providing information to us. They are there, they are on the ground. And when we run these stories, nobody picks them up except a handful of international news outlets, because it does not conform to what they are reporting here in the United States. So this is basically a makeup of a psychological warfare. First of all, the decision on Syria was made months, years ago even. The preparation began, and this is in Turkey on the border there, under NATO's airbase there, Incirlik Air Base, in last May, and this is May 2011. So they have the decision, they have had the decision, they have been preparing for an actual war. And then they begin the propaganda and the psychological warfare by trying to get the public support for an unwarranted war, because based on those standards, we should be going after every single member of the Arab League. And that's the hypocrisy of the U.S. foreign policy you're looking at, playing right in front of you.
However, it is a fact that Assad is cracking down on the protesters in the country. People are dying among the opposition. So what do you think could be done to actually bring this all to a resolution and stop the bloodshed on both sides?
I think the opposite of what we have been doing, because by imposing sanctions, by actually creating restlessness in the country, and this is what we have been doing from our base in Turkey, from dropping leaflets to actually having the defectors working there with the United States, with the NATO, trying to provoke violence in the country. We are just doing the opposite. What we are doing is not to calm the situation and to actually encourage Assad to act differently. And I am not a big fan of Bashar Assad, but neither am I the fan of Bahrain or Saudi Arabia, or even with Egypt. I mean, with Egypt, what was it? We were absolutely supporting Mubarak's regime, and then we changed our stand. We started putting our NGO fronts, and these are the U.S. government fronts, to actually support the uprising, fund the uprising, direct the uprising. And what do we have today? Just take a look at the situation.
I'm sorry.
We are funding the military.
I'm sorry to jump in, but we're going to lose our satellite soon, so we have to wrap up. Sibel Edmonds, a former FBI translator and founder of the National Security Whistleblowers Coalition, thanks for your time.